Hi friends, hello, happy Wednesday. Welcome to Craft Your Joy Live. I'm Lisa Hetrick. It's been a while, friends, since I have come on live. I'm super excited to be here today with you. And I have no idea how many people will pop in because it's been a while. So we're just going to dive in. Friends, it has been a couple weeks since I've gone live. It has been a wild and woolly summer, all good things. And one of the things that has suffered is going live because, you know, life. So some of you may have been on my email list and caught my social media post. But yeah, we're back. We're back. And today I'm going to be sharing a card project using my latest stamp set with Gina K Designs called Lovely Days. We're going to just ease into this. We're going to do a little bit of watercolor and we're just going to have a chat. It's been a while. I'm a little rusty. I haven't watercolor painted in feels like in 2 months other than creating card projects. So let's dive in. I'm going to see, I got people popping in the chat. I see hello, Sue. Hi, Tammy. Just great to see everybody popping in today. Okay, if this is your first time with me on a live, I kind of structure my lives a little bit different. Hello, Annabelle. Oh, Annelle, sorry. I don't have my glasses on. They're on the top of my head. I kind of structure my lives a little bit different. I don't focus as much on the creating of the anatomy of the card, even though I'll be walking through that process with you. I won't take a lot of time to talk about supplies. They're all listed down below in the description on Facebook and on YouTube. Hello, Tressa. Good to see you too. It's just so good to see all these new names popping in. I love it. I love it. But today I do like to focus the lessons a little bit like a teaching lesson in the middle or as part of this tutorial. And today we're going to talk about some of the differences between cotton, 100% cotton paper and not cotton paper, which is like the Canson or the cellulose wood pulp watercolor paper. And it's really a lot about preference, and I just wanted to kind of share some tips with both. Okay, friends, I see more friends popping in. We are just going to dive in. Let's go ahead. Hello, Carolyn. Let's just dive in. My hair is everywhere. Here is the card project that we're going to make today. This is with my newest stamp set called Lovely Days. And you can see that this card is pretty intensive in watercolor. And so we're just going to create a watercolor card, and I may or may not put a sentiment on it. Now, I have today, so here's the stamp set that we're going to be using. Lovely Days. I'm in love with this set. If you caught the live that we did August 3rd, I think it was. Wow. Yeah, the live that we did for the live release with Gina K, I shared the inspiration behind this stamp set. And the wild thing about that live is that I was on vacation during that live, so I had all of that pre-prep work for the launch of this set done beforehand, and I was on vacation with my family. So it was a lot of like running to do to this, to this, to this. So I didn't even get a chance to really do some live tutorials until today using this stamp set. So this stamp set, Lovely Days, super fun. I'm just so excited about it. I love this picture. We are going to do some watercoloring with this picture today. It's got a coordinating die set. And yeah, we're just going to dive in. So hi, Cheryl. So good to see everyone. Tammy's got Lovely Days on her wish list. Lisa, hi Lisa. Okay, friends, I totally forgot to say, if you have a question along the way during this live, pop the question in the chat. If you see my gaze looking this way, that's where I have all the comments and the questions so that I can answer them for you. Okay, let's dive in. Here's the card project that we're going to be making today. I am using Moonlit I've got some paper here. Hi, Catherine. I've got some paper here. I am using Moonlit Fog from Gina K. And I did several cards using Moonlit Fog. I really love this cardstock. It's not new to me. It's been in Gina's line for a while, but I just recently picked up some and I really, really love it. It is technically a gray, but it's got this undertone of sage green in it that I think is just lovely and kind of pulls off of the greens that we're going to be using today. Okay, now let's just dive into the paper. I want to talk about watercolor paper because one of the biggest questions I get a lot is what paper should I use? It's usually what paint should I use? What brushes should I use? What kind of paper should I use for my watercolor projects? So I tend to use the Strathmore Ready Cut Watercolor 100% Cotton for my paper crafting projects. And the reason why is I love 100% cotton paper. I love it. It takes a lot of water. I feel like it makes your paints vibrant, and I don't fight with the paper so much. Okay. So hi, Karen. Canson watercolor paper is a cold press paper. It's 140 pound, just like our 100% cotton paper. But the difference is like a Canson paper or a paper like this is beautiful. It's really inexpensive. It's very affordable. You can tell it's thick. It's nice. It's really nice to work with. It's got some texture to it. One side is textured and usually the other side is smooth. But the difference between this paper and this paper is that this is a wood pulp paper. So the manufacturing of the paper is different. Where you have more cotton fibers happening with 100% cotton paper. With a wood pulp paper, the wood pulp is smashed together and the paper is made. Now, why does that matter? It doesn't. Friends, it doesn't matter. Paper is a preference. Paper I like to use both for different reasons. And I wanted to share a couple card projects that I've done with past Gina K sets. And we're also going to do a little test with the two papers so that you can see. These are a bunch of cards that I have done with a Canson watercolor paper. Now, what makes it different between using 100% cotton and then using like a wood pulp paper or a Canson watercolor paper? Or there are other brands, believe me. And the difference is you can feel the difference. Also, it'll say 100% cotton on the paper, or it'll say 140 pound cold press or hot press. It won't say 100% cotton. So the Canson paper is what they call a cellulose paper, wood pulp paper, but look at the vibrancy of color. What I would say my predominant differences with my painting style for paper crafting projects is, Tressa just shared, I love paper of all kinds. So do I, friend. The difference is, I feel like with a wood pulp cellulose paper like Canson, you get beautiful watercolor effects, but they're more washy and less intense. Oh, thanks, Karen. That's a great question. Less intense. Where with our 100% cotton paper, you can see that I'm really kind of working my shadows and my lights and my darks, and I feel like there's a little more intense vibrancy with the 100% cotton. Okay. Karen just asked a question. What are your thoughts on Arches cold press? Karen, Arches is my absolute favorite. I am going to take my head off. I'm going to grab a piece so that everybody can see it. Okay. I'm going to pop it. I have a piece of, I actually have a block of Arches paper, or arches. It's French. There's lots of different ways to say it. Say it whatever way you want. Okay, so this is a block of the Arches paper. Love it. And here's why. So I love this paper for when I'm painting projects like this. And actually, this is a tutorial on my YouTube channel here. So, and again, the reason why is the vibrancy of color is here. Look at that level of intensity of color. This kind of paper is made to take wet wash after wet wash after wet wash and then layering, versus working with our watercolor paper like a Canson paper. Beautiful effects. Look at all these beautiful effects that we can get with that kind of paper. But it's more of a on the surface, like it doesn't dive deep. It can take some wet. It doesn't take a lot before it starts lifting, and I'm going to show you that. But you do get some really beautiful washy techniques with that paper. So I feel like what's important to note is that not one version of a paper or version of a brand is better than another. I mean, people will argue with me on that. It's about preference, and it's about what you're using the paper for to create with. So in my paper crafting projects, everybody always sees me talk about the Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor, but I do use the Canson. It depends. Depends on my mood too. Okay, so Tressa shared. So Lisa, release night was wonderful. I love the new stamp set. Thank you. Tammy just shared, my dad worked at a pulp mill and would bring me home stacks of paper. That's really cool. That's super cool. Karen thought I was going to say it was bad. I'm glad. I love it. Oh, Karen, I love it. Okay, so also some of the differences between like an Arches paper. Some of the differences between like this paper, and this paper brand is price. So I would say like super budget friendly, a little bit more budget friendly, like middle ground, affordable, nice to stock up on, goes on sale often. This one you can get really cheap. So like a 9x12 pad of 30, sometimes you can pick up for $10. And I think now you can. Like I think it's on Amazon right now for $10. Arches, a paper like this is, you know, somewhere in the 20, 30 category for a block. So am I making a lot of my cards with Arches paper? Not really. I'm using Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor. Am I painting paintings that I'm going to hang or give to people, or people ask me to paint with this paper? Absolutely, because it's more made for that. Made for that. Okay. Tressa said, this is really good to know. And I feel myself like completely nerding out on paper, and I wasn't going to go into like a super nerd fest today, but it's happening. It's happening, friends, and we're just leaning into it. Carolyn just shared, thank you so much. That was the best explanation on what I've heard. Cheryl, Strathmore, hot and cold. Yes, Strathmore, hot and cold. So hot press paper, cold press paper, Ready Cut watercolor. And the reason why I share this one so much is because I feel like the techniques I share on this channel work really well with this paper. And then you, in turn, if you're using paper or paper like this, will have like immediate success. You won't be fighting with your paper so much. So that's what I think. That's what I think is really important when we're creating projects. But today we're going to use Canson. We are going to use Canson because it was sitting on my desk and I wanted to talk about paper. I wanted to nerd out today about paper. Okay, friends, this is the card we're going to make. But before we get into it, let's just do a couple little color swatches on this paper. Now, I've got some, Cheryl's like, nerd on. Friends, I thought today I would go live today and I'd be like super, super rusty. And I am kind of a little bit rusty because it's been a couple weeks. But you know what? I can nerd out. Like I can get back into nerding out really quick. Oh boy. Okay, I have some core watercolors and no specific reason why I have them and I'm using them today. We've talked about them on the channel. We've talked about them a lot over the last couple weeks. They were sitting on my desk. That's why I grabbed them. Okay, the Canson watercolor paper. Let me show you some of the differences and then we'll do some Strathmore. So I'm going to do a wet into wet. So my brush is wet and I'm applying the a wet wash to the paper. I'm going to grab, let's grab some Quinny red here. Just kind of put some in there. And I'm going to drop this in and just kind of let it do its thing. So I don't know if you can hear this. Let's put up a little ASMR, right? So this paper, you can see that my paint is just kind of gliding across the surface of this watercolor paper. And see, the more I touch it, I'm going to add some more paint. The more I touch it, I added a lot of paint. Yeah. The more I touch it, the more it seems to just be sitting on the surface. So that's one of the observations and differences that I would say with this paper. Now, beautiful watercolor, but if I keep working this watercolor, it'll start to lift. You can see, like, if I try to go to my edges a little bit and try to get them to come out, like, it starts to lift a little bit and it starts a little tough to work with, and you can see that that watercolor is just kind of sitting on top of that paper, which makes for kind of a really fun washy look for your card project. So see, there's no real super precision here with how I made this card or how I placed my color down. I just kind of like plop that color down and let it do its thing in the water. And because it sits on the surface of that paper and doesn't really penetrate deep into the fibers of the paper because it's a wood pulp paper, you kind of get this surface washy effect versus a little bit more of an intense effect that you can get with 100% watercolor paper. So let's do the same thing over with my Strathmore. I've got a little brush here, a little bit of wet into wet. It's a little bit, that water is a little bit tinged. So I'm going to drop this in. You can see the core watercolors move around really nicely, but you can see that I'm getting a little bit of a different kind of wash. I'm going to grab a bigger brush. A different kind of wash with the 100% cotton paper. There's a little bit more intensity. See, this is kind of dried. I've got a fan going in my office, so I am really able to reactivate that paint that's kind of dried a little there, and see, just kind of move it even more. So while it's drying and it's going into the fibers of the paper, I've got a lot more smooth look here on the watercolor paper, on the 100% cotton, versus over here with my 140 pound. Watch me go back to it and try to kind of move things around a little bit. I can get a little bit movement, but I can't go back and kind of, it starts to kind of lift away. So I would say the easiest way to tell the difference and to figure out what kind of paper you want to use for the project that you're working on is this. You want kind of washy effects where the watercolor kind of sits on top of the paper and you can really kind of do some really quick watercoloring like this or this, which is absolutely beautiful. You get this watercoloring effects, but you're really not going too deep. You're making this card pretty quickly. Look at that background. I'd say go for the Canson, right? I love it. I still grab it. It's also very heavy weighted. So I love it, love it, love it. Hi, Becky. Welcome, welcome. Okay. And as these dry, like we've got an area that's dry here and an area that's dry right here. One of the interesting things about cotton paper is that when it's dry and you're ready to go back in and add more layers and do some glazing, like I can get right back in here and I can do some glazing and adding some color, and the color up underneath it isn't lifting. It's just the paper is accepting more water. It's accepting more paint, and it's allowing it to come into the fibers of the paper, and it's just letting me paint. If I come over here with my Canson and just kind of start to work and add a little bit more, I'm fighting with it a little bit. I'm trying to add more, and again, it's sitting on top of the layer underneath it. And if I keep rubbing, things just start to lift. You can see it's not laying, it's not going into the fibers of the paper, it's just lifting. Snag some Strathmore. Oh, yay! Karen, you'll love it. You'll absolutely love it. I love it for the paper crafting projects, all of my card projects. I've even painted some bigger things with it. And the reason why I love that Strathmore is because it's pretty affordable. It's pretty affordable for using for our card projects. See how my color is kind of lifting here, but you can see that the color has dried up underneath. Where in my 100% cotton paper, my layering is preserved. Okay. I hope that helped. I hope everybody kind of got a little quick primer, a little quick tutorial about some differences in paper. I could spend the entire hour just talking about paper and showing you samples and different brands and things like that. But I have, actually I did that. I have a course in my Craft Your Joy classroom at craftyourjoy.com called Watercolor Wonderland. It's 50% off right now, and I can't remember the code, but I'll figure it out, and I will I'll look it up before we finish our tutorial today if anyone's interested in that. And also, if anyone's on my email list in the chat and you've received this code in an email, you might want to just pop in the chat for me. Anyway, hello Irma, hello Judith. No worries that she says, I hate that I'm late. No worries. We always have the replay, right? Hi Mary. Just got here. I have Strathmore. It was the first I bought. Yay. I love it. Okay. All right. We're going to get going. Now, we are going to do like a full-on comparison. We're going to make this card as very close to this look as possible, but we're going to do it with the Strathmore Ready Cut. No, we're not doing it with the Strathmore. We're doing it with the Canson paper. Here's my Moonlit Fog. That's going to be my card base. And we're going to just go ahead and get started. I'm going to pop this in front of me. Here is the Canson paper. We're going to get started first by stamping the picture. Then we're going to build some layers behind it. We're going to do some watercoloring. Thank you, Tammy. She shared, hit the like button. Okay, I have got this Gina K Innocent Pink. And I'm just going to lightly ink up my picture. If you caught the live release, the inspiration for this picture in the stamp set had everything to do. There's an ambulance passing, so if you hear that, you hear that. The inspiration for this picture was my buying patterns, and apparently I have quite a few pictures, and it was kind of inspired by some Fiesta wear and some pictures that I have purchased. So I'm just gently stamping this down. And I'm not super worried about this being a really good impression because we're going to go in and we're going to do some watercoloring. Okay. Now, we are going to do, the predominant color for the picture is going to be oranges and pinks. So I'm going to use some watercolor for the picture. So I'm going to use core watercolors for the picture. Remember, you can use your Gina K inks. I am going to use Sweet Mango when we go to do the blossoms. And I am going to use two greens, Fresh Asparagus and Jelly Bean Green, when we go to do the leafery. But for the pot, I wanted to really kind of show you some of the differences with this paper. We're going to use some watercolor. Hello, Brooke. We've got Brooke just joined us. Very nice to see you. Okay. We're going to start off with the top of the pot. I'm not going to worry too much about the insides. I'm going to turn this just a little bit. I'm going to take some of this Quinny red and kind of put some of it down here. And I'm going to start with a wet into wet. My brush is wet. The paper is dry, but what I'm going to do is apply, like, paint with water. We're going to paint with water all the way across. While I'm painting this, I will share like the techniques. We'll also just kind of have a little chat. Okay, I'm going to pop this in and just kind of let it do its thing. Now, with the Canson, I have to work a little bit quicker because it dries a lot faster with the wood pulp paper. It dries a lot faster because the paint is sitting on top. So you can see I'm just kind of working. I've got a little paper towel here. I'm kind of going back and forth. You can see that the paint is just kind of sitting on the surface here. So I feel like when it's sitting on the surface here and I want to get that first good layer of color in, it's fighting me a little bit. But part of your learning, like I always say this with paints, part of paper and part of watercolor paints is understanding what you have and learning how to use it and learning the differences. So if you experiment with other watercolor papers and you're not getting the same effects that you would with all of your different brands, there's a reason, because you're not going to. You're going to end up getting different effects for different paints, different papers. Now, one of the things I recommend, see, I'm kind of working at this a little bit to just get the shadows and the lights because the paper is really sitting on the surface. Not bad, not good, not horrible, not anything, just is, right? Just facts that I've got to work with this a little bit. So in this case, I was working my darks and my lights to here. I also know that I'm going to be doing some overstamping here with some cherry red. So I do want some lights in there. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit more color. We can see there's something going on. Something going on. The other side of the road that I live on, the road that I live on is 3 miles long. And there's been some construction on the other side of it. But we've had some power lines down and things like that lately. Just some weird summer things. Okay, so you can see that this color, I'm kind of really working hard to get that light to dark, and I love it. I'm still liking it, digging it. So I also did not wait in between layers for the color to dry. I just kind of continued to work with it, which I have found with this kind of paper is one of the kind of little tricks. Because layering on this paper, you can do layering on cotton paper. You can do upwards of 3 or more layers. Layering with a wood pulp paper, a cellulose paper like Canson, I feel like my max is 2 layers before I start lifting up dry colors underneath it and then getting some blooming and some weird things happening. Okay. I want to preserve my lines here to do a little bit of orange. I might have to go to a smaller. Let's go up. Let's do the red here and do a little bit up here. So again, I'm going to go in and I'm not worrying too much about this part because I know I'm going to be covering it. So I'm not going to worry too much about my details here. I'm going to add a little bit of that Quinny red and let it kind of do its thing. And it does go whoosh. Part of this is this particular watercolor, core watercolor, is very whooshy. But part of it is that watercolor is sitting on that surface of the paper. It's not going down into the fibers. It's sitting on the surface and it's going to whoosh all the way across. Find the water because watercolor wants to go where the water is. And that's what it's doing. All right, and you can see I'm kind of working with this a little bit to get that color to kind of move over to my edge. And I'm working kind of fast. Again, I got this fan on in here. I should have turned that fan off because things are starting to dry a little quicker than I'd like them to be, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry too much. I do want to come across here. So the biggest thing that I feel like with precise kind of watercoloring like this with Canson is, or with a wood pulp paper, is that I'm fussing with it a little bit. Fussing with it to get my lights and darks. And also it feathers a little bit on the edges. Do you see how it traveled a little bit here? It's traveling a little bit. My lines are less crisp. They're a little more fuzzy, which is pretty cool. That works too. All right, I'm going to come in and do some oranges here. And I'm just going to follow my stripes. So let's go ahead, get some of this transparent pyrrole orange. I love this color. Oh, I love this color. Hi, Sue. Sue was over on Facebook and popped over here on YouTube. Sue, I want to thank you for sending me a birthday card. That was July, friends. That's how far behind I've gotten this summer. It's been wild. It's been wild. Hi, Rhonda. Rhonda just popped in. She said she's coming in really late. No worries. We're in the thick of it. All right, this paintbrush is tiny. All right, I got a tiny paintbrush here. I'm going to go in and just kind of follow the lines. So in the stamp set, I've got all these lines I built in for you. We're just going to follow those lines and paint a little bit of orange just in there. Okay, so a little bit of an update while I'm doing this. Why has it been wild and woolly this summer, friends? Well, my son, and I know that you have heard me talk to my son on these lives before. He's usually kind of going into work when I'm going live. My son and his girlfriend, and I've shared this before, they bought a house in May. And we had been helping them work on their house. It needed a little work. It was just a little beautiful house, beautiful property, just a little dated and needed just some TLC. So a lot of projects, so a lot of weekends were kind of tied up with doing a lot of projects with them and helping them to realize the home of their dreams. And we finally kind of finished the last of the projects right before we went on vacation as a family, and with a little bit to do when we got back. But we were doing a lot of things. I've painted a lot. I've done a lot of removing of wallpaper. My husband did flooring, just all the things that you do when you're working on a house or you're renovating a house. So we had been helping them do a lot of those things. Then as a family, we all went on vacation together, which was wonderful. I'm just going to come around here and just kind of give the outside of this using the paint that's here and just give this a little shape. Let's give this a little shape here. So you can see these lines look decent, kind of like them. I'm adding a little bit more color, especially down here because this is going to show. I'm going to end up putting my flowers are going to cover a good portion of this. So we had that, and we're super, super excited for them. You know, there's a little bit of sadness because my son is the first to leave and go live elsewhere, right? But they don't live far away from us, and we're very excited. We're super, super excited for them. So there's just been a lot, and that's a lot of those kinds of transitions. Also, my daughter, my beautiful girl, my beautiful son, she has, she's in her junior year, and she changed schools and majors and a whole bunch of things last spring. And she has found what she really loves, and I'm super excited for her. So, and she's turning 21 on Monday. So we just have had a lot of things going on this summer that have kind of been the priority. Family has been the priority. Also, like work-related things have been busy. I've been super, super busy. So a lot of the work deadlines have taken precedent over things. And I never want to show up here just because, right? I'm going to turn this around. We're going to get some color applied to the arm here. I'm going to do dry into wet. My brush is, no, wet into dry. My brush is wet. There's pigment on my brush. And we're going in dry around the handle here. Oh, happy birthday to your daughter. What wonderful memory. Yes, Cheryl said, what wonderful memories you'll have with the house and you're helping. Yes, it was just kind of amazing. Like we helped them gut everything. The kitchen, the bathroom. We helped, and a lot of my family, our extended family helped too. Our extended family and friends helped with a lot of things, you know, related to plumbing and all electrical. My husband can do electric. We are big DIY families as far as some things. Like we are fully capable of probably building a house, and my brother-in-law actually does that. So we had a lot of, I've got a lot of paint here, so I'm just kind of using what's here and just getting my brush wet and then working it around. So we've had a lot of those kind of projects going on all summer. I've painted, like I said, I painted a lot of things. I did a lot of wallpaper, and my my son's girlfriend, her family too. So we have just a lot of both families doing lots of things. They also cut a big wall out. You know, those kind of really, really super big projects. So it was kind of exciting. And yeah, so we are in a season, or I am in a season of adjusting to my son and his girlfriend. They lived here for a while before they moved in, and adjusting to them not being here. And I'm just excited for them, and it's just new, and we're just finding a new rhythm as a family together, and it's just super cool. It's super cool. It's had its moments. I have ugly cried. That happened. That has happened. As I think any parent would when, you know, one of your children is thriving and moving on and buying their first home. So kind of exciting. Okay. All right. I am going to, so you can see, let's pause for a moment, because I've used the same colors here with this paper, and I want to bring in this real quick so that we can see some differences. So with the paper, even though I'm able to achieve some darks to lights here, and I think it's looking pretty good, I feel like I did struggle to get it to happen, and it took a while. Versus I know over here it was a lot quicker for me to get those lights to darks, but this looks really good. I'm kind of digging it. All right, let's just motor through here. I'm going to leave this. I feel like I'm going to add a little bit more here, but I can see that it's starting to dry and it's starting to lift because I've worked it a little bit too much. I'm going to come in and let's stamp in our leafery. So a lot of that's been going on. I've also been doing a lot of design work this summer. I'm going to do my leafery bits. We're going to do a piece here, something in the middle, and something going that way. So I've got a little bit of jelly bean green here, and I'm going to ink this up, and then I'm going to immediately try to get some of that color to kind of dissolve a little bit. Oh, we've got a little bit of red. We got a little bit of red on the brush. So lots of big adjustments happening in a different season. Summer is, I just love summer. Also, it's been hot this summer, and I have been having in my garden a bumper cucumber crops this year. Cucumbers everywhere. But I've also been out there fighting bugs because I don't spray anything. I don't do any, go as far as organic as possible. Fighting bugs and mosquitoes all summer in the garden. Karen, if she's still here, is a huge gardener. So I'm sure she can relate, even though she lives not in Maryland like me. I'm just going to go this way and this way with my leafery. Cheryl just asked a question. What size brush is the little one that you're using? Great question. This is a 3. It's tiny. It's tiny, but I like it because look, I'm able to really kind of get in there. So when I'm using 100% cotton paper with my Gina K inks, I feel like I can get that color to move a little bit more than I can with this paper. Cheryl just said this is the year of bugs. Here in Seattle, we're also fighting them. Holy smokes. So I will go into the garden to weed, pull things, and literally the mosquitoes are relentless no matter what. Even when I put a repellent on, and I tend to use essential oils for that, or things that don't have DEET and things that are a little more organic in nature, because I don't want chemicals on my skin. So I will go into the garden and literally the mosquitoes bite me in the face. I'll come out with bites on my face. I have gotten bitten so much this summer. It's unreal. Unreal. Okay, before we do the blooms, I want to ground this pot a little bit. I'm going to come in. I'm going to grab some of this green gold. I think I'm going to do green gold. Let's take a little bit of this green gold. And I'm going to do, my brush is wet. The paper is dry. And the reason why I'm doing less wet into wet is because I just am. I'm showing both. Went into wet, went into dry. So see what I mean about this? Paper is just super fun when you're kind of just doing a wash of color. I'm going to come back in while it's still wet and just kind of add a little bit underneath and see if I can get some lights and darks here. and then just kind of let that dry and see what happens. Okay. I like that green gold color because it will pull out. It's a nice complementary color to the fresh asparagus and jelly bean green, and it will kind of pull out those yellow greens that are in the jelly bean green. Catherine says my paper towel is looking like a lovely abstract art piece. Kind of fun. So people who, like a lot of mixed media artists will save their paper towels from their inking techniques and see what happens, and then they'll end up using them in their sketchbooks and stuff. So kind of fun. All right, I'm grabbing another piece of Canson, and we are going to do the stamping for the blossoms. So I'm going to do one big blossom and two little blossoms. So, lots of things happening this summer. Now, the technique that I'm going to use, I'm going to ink this up. I don't have to work quicker than I would with 100% cotton paper. I'm going to ink, stamp, and then I'm going to try to get this color, the sweet mango, to release. And you can see that it's a little bit more of a fight to get that color to release than when I've done it with the 100% cotton paper. So I'm going to take a little bit of that sweet mango. I've got this entire bloom, added some water, and now I'm just going to drop this in a little bit. This is a technique that I do a lot, but I do it a lot with the 100% cotton paper, where I'm adding the ink, the Gina K inks, to the paper. And you can see that this is kind of sitting on the surface. And it's going to be okay once it dries. But I just keep adding a little bit more and more because I'm trying to get some intensity. Trying to get it just to be a little bit more intense in color. Okay. Now I'm going to stamp the other two and do them in two blossoms. One. Try to work quick and get that color to release. You can see it's not, when you use your stamping inks on watercolor paper like this, Canson watercolor, I'm not able to get that color to release like I want to. Karen just shared, thank you for showing the difference. I have the Canson, but I don't use it. Maybe now I'll pull it out. Yeah, I'd say pull it out. Pull it out for some of your more washy, less precise. Karen, you do a lot of like the no line watercoloring. That's absolutely beautiful. I wouldn't use this paper for that because, as you can see, the little bit of no line that we've done here feels kind of fuzzy. I am going to go back and show you how we're going to get our lines back and kind of retain that, but yeah, not super loving it. So all this to say, paper, oops, not that. Let's use the sweet mango. Paper, inks, watercolor, all preference. And then once you kind of find the thing that you love to work with and that brings you the most joy, you kind of tend to stick with it. I'm going to take a little bit of that pyrrole orange and add it and see if I can kind of get a little bit more intensity in what I'm doing here in my blossoms. Okay. Going to let this dry for a minute. It's only going to take a minute because of the ceiling fan. And then I'm going to come in, kind of bring this back over and go back and try to bring a little bit more shape back. So one of the things I really liked about this card is I definitely has some defined shape, and I've got some shape here. I want to bring some of that detail and that shape back. So let's see. I'm going to use this number 6, and I'm going to come in with that quinacridone red and just kind of hover just that very tip. You can see that I'm really choked up on the brush. So this is the ferrule of the brush. I'm kind of really choked up to the tip, sort of like I would with a pen. And I'm just like dragging that very tip of the brush with that little bit of quinacridone red right around the edge, just so gently. You can see it, just so I can get a little bit more definition in the shape, because I felt like it was really getting fuzzy. I felt myself nerding out there. Okay, so I can feel that shape coming back. Now over here, when I go to do it and I bring this back in, I'm gonna have to feather this out just a little bit, because it looks like a hard line up against my whites here, or the area here that's a little less intense. So my brush is clean, and I'm just gently touching it, because I don't want to lift any of this color up, and that will absolutely happen with this paper. So little bit of wet, really choked up on the brush, coming in and just kind of trying to feather out that edge but not lose that edge. All right, fair enough, looks decent. Now, I'm gonna come in here, do the same thing, but just right here for this lip, just a little bit, and feather that out just a smidge, you know, scientific smidge. I'm gonna go inside here and do the same thing, just a little bit on the tip there, and come in. So, friends, I shared in social media, I think last week, you know, that I was going to be going live this week. And I also shared this in my email list. So those of you on my email list received that as well. That I, you know, hadn't been going live, that it suffered, but it's getting back on track, because, you know, seasons change. But the other thing I wanted to kind of share was that some people were really upset. And if you were one of the people that were really upset, I'm sorry. You know, it happens. I am the type of person that likes to do what I say I'm going to do. So if there's a time when I feel like I'm not going to be able to do it, I don't promise that I'm going to do it. And sometimes I did share this summer that I was going to go live, and then it literally escaped me and it didn't happen. So thank you, Sue. She said, I'm so good at watercoloring. I haven't watercolored for 2 months, so today's a little rusty, and you can kind of see that happening in my blooms here. Now, the Lovely Days stamp set, we have a coordinating die that will cut these blooms. I'm going to cut them out by hand real quick, because it's a little bit faster than going over to the table cam and doing all the cutting. I don't know if faster is the right word, but we are having a little chat, and I do like to fussy cut things. So some folks, while I'm fussy cutting this, I'll finish the story. Some folks were a little bit upset about me not going live. I was upset too, friends. Some folks shared how upset they were with me in emails and in direct messages, like through social media. And you know what? I get it. I get it. And, you know, I could have gotten mad about it, but I didn't. I just said, hey, I totally understand. I totally understand. And so what I tried to do is put myself in the shoes of that person who was upset, because they really weren't upset about me going live, because that's not really, that's kind of like a first world problem, right? They weren't really upset. In my opinion, I felt like they weren't really upset about me not going live. They were upset because maybe me going live was kind of joy in their day, or made them happy, or was a nice break in their day from some kind of incredibly stressful thing that might be happening in their lives. And when you take a moment to think about the frame of reference of someone else and why they might be upset with you, it's never usually about you or the thing that they're actually saying they're upset about. They really have something else going on that is making them react to everything in their life as in an upset manner. So I get it, friends. So, I'm sorry. I'm human. I get it. We're all here living life together, and I get it. But I will continue to go live, continue to share tutorials, and do the very best I can always. Oh, everybody is sharing. So sure. Oh, wow. Everybody's so nice. Kathy said, you're so creative. We all understand how the muse moves us and when it doesn't. And we can't be held to schedules. Sometimes it's difficult to be held to schedule. Karen said, I love your work, rusty or not. Yeah, I'm a little rusty today, but it's fun. And I wanted to come in and have some time to chat with you. We can't be held to schedules. Here's the thing about schedules. Like, every time you say, like I've said, hey, we're going to do this at this time, you know what? Something unpredictable can happen. I'm just going in and adding a little bit color here. I think I'm going to make it worse, but I'm not loving the way my blooms came out with the Canson. And I'm going to show you, and I don't think I'm going to be able to recover, but I'm going to just go with it. Look at the blooms here. I've got hair. My hair is everywhere. Look at the blooms here with the 100% cotton paper. I just love it. I didn't achieve that effect with this, but that's okay. Cheryl just said, gave me time to practice what you've been teaching, and I hadn't been able to try. I've learned giving grace is so helpful. Absolutely. That's kind of like my thing. There's a time there. Do I get upset? Absolutely. I am human. I get upset just like everybody else. But I try to just take in a deep breath and pause and say, okay, this really isn't about me. This person's having a really rough day, and I hope that, it gets better. And anybody who direct messaged me in that way, that's exactly what I told them. All right, this paper bowed a little bit. It's super thick. I'm going to get this applied to my Moonlit fog. Let's add a little bit of clear to the back here. Got a little gloopy. Oh well. Let's just kind of spread the gloopies out a little bit. I think I'm going to need a little bit more here. Frame of reference. There's a lot going on in the world. A lot of things to be, that'll give people pause. I think if everyone just took a moment and just kind of just gave somebody, even if they deserve it or not, a little break, things would be just a little bit nicer. The world would be a little nicer. So that's what I did. Now, I had a lot of people drop off my email list because they were upset with me. And that's okay too. You can come in and out of my email list. I totally get it. We all get emails. Maybe they felt like I wasn't giving them the consistency that they wanted in their lives at the moment. That's totally cool. I get it. I totally get it. But yes, I chose to give grace, and I will always choose to give grace to anyone who's kind of upset with me or doesn't agree with how I've taught something. Oh, Catherine just said, I'm just glad you're okay and we're not skipping because of problems. Glad to hear about the family blessings. Sue said, that's all you can do. Sue, question. You might have said this, but where do you get your cotton watercolor paper? Okay, Strathmore Ready Cut Watercolor. I have a link down below in the description. I predominantly get this on Amazon, even though I don't like to feed the Amazon machine. It's a reality, and I predominantly get it there because I don't have somewhere local to go pick it up. And you can get some pretty good deals there, and I buy it a little bit more in bulk there. Thank you, Karen, for sharing that update. Okay. Am I loving this card? Kind of not, kind of whatever. But we're rusty and we're getting back into it. All right, we're going to add the blooms. And I'm going to put the first bloom down with a little foam square. I've got some Gina K foam squares. Let me grab a foamy. I probably should use tweezers. But friends, everyone knows who's followed me for a while. I'm super tweezer challenged. Like those tweezers that, you know, go in the opposite directions. My brain just can't seem to make that work. So sometimes I'll bring in like regular tweezers, you know, the kind we use to pluck. But no. So to follow up with Catherine, nothing bad happened this summer. It was just like a swampy like kind of summer, just super, super busy. Things were moving at light speed, and work-wise things were moving at light speed, and I had a lot of deadlines. I have, you know, clients that I serve. I was also doing a lot of illustrations for upcoming Gina K, doing some things for scrapbooking cards today. I also have other clients that I serve that are in the higher education market. So I was just kind of busy working and trying to balance all the things. Okay, let's take a look at these blooms compared to these blooms. I really like these blooms. Don't dislike this card. Just feeling like it's not the same, right? And this part of the difference is you can do the techniques exactly the same, and I kind of did, and I get different results because my paper is different and it's acting a little bit differently. Bad? No. Good? Yes. Different? Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to take the 3 hearts from the Lovely Days stamp set. There they are right there. I just love them. And they fit perfectly into the picture there. Okay. So, Judas just said you have a right to life too. You know, I got so many beautiful comments from everyone when I shared. And I don't share things in social media to get comments. Actually, I just share because that's what I like to do and I like to teach. And I love the way that hearts came out. I think that really just kind of helped that ground that picture a little bit more. It's got that whole kind of stoneware picture look to it, doesn't it? Love that. I forgot my tidy towel. Way to go, Lise. Cherry red will stain your stamp, but I don't care. I did just want to kind of get it cleaned up a little bit. Oh, got my thing a little bit wet there. That's okay. All right, sentiment-wise, in the stamp set, let's see. What do we have? I feel like I could put a sentiment right there. We could pop that have a lovely day right down there and do that. Let's do that. So one other thing I wanted to share is everybody who's here, I hope you kind of really enjoy the way I teach these classes. Many of you are repeat friends. You've been with me. There's some new faces in here today. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go rogue. Now, if I was doing this on 100% cotton paper, I would kind of go rogue quickly and I would stamp it quickly. Now, what I will say about like the Canson watercolor paper is I know that I can get a pretty decent impression, and I'm going to show you on a scrap piece. I know that I can get a pretty decent impression pretty quickly on the Canson. I can get a really nice impression. The paper, again, the paper doesn't have all those fibers that is going to take the ink and soak it in super quick. That ink is sitting on top of the paper and it's not going to move. So I'm using Obsidian. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to eyeball this. I'm kind of looking at my screen. I'm going to go do a little Hail Mary, rock it a little bit, and boom, there we go. We got our sentiment. This got a little smooshy because my paper was a little wet there. So Yeet. All right, that happened. And I got another little big blop of water there. All right, I'm kind of digging it. We're going to finish this card off. I'm going to add just some sequins to the center. Oops. Little bloop, little bloop. I've got some Gina K. Where did I put my sequins? There you go. Right here, some Gina K sequins. Sue just shared, I am so a beginner in watercolor. Oh, Sue, welcome. Thanks for the tips and techniques and learning from you. Sue, I have so many, you may already know this, handmade, not Hallmark. Yep, Cheryl. Sue, you may already know this, but I have a ton of watercolor videos on this channel. A lot. You could, and every technique that I've shared on this channel, I share it very much like I did today. So notice how we didn't really focus on the anatomy of creating the card or talk about 1,000 different supplies that we used to create the card. I really did focus on the techniques for watercoloring to create the card. And that's how I like to do my teaching projects. That's how I like to do this. There are so many creators on YouTube. Oh, lots of friends, lots of my friends that are just amazing, and then just kind of walk through all the different supplies and create these amazing projects. I'm just approaching it a little bit differently here on this channel, focusing on teaching some watercolor techniques and teaching you a lot about different supplies and how they interact with each other. Oh, Anil, this was my first video, Lisa, and I learned so much from you today. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad. There are so many new friends today, new names that I've seen in the chat today that just brings me so much joy. Thank you so much. And I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you liked the framework of this kind of tutorial. I tend to only do lives now, except for Gina K releases where I'm showing my walkthrough of the stamp set. And the reason why is that I get to interact with you, and that I get to answer your questions in real time, and that I get to teach something in context of a paper crafting project. So you kind of, when you get your supplies, you kind of know you got some techniques or you've got some tools to create with. Okay, let's wrap this up, Lisa. Let's take a look at the cards. Okay, same supplies, okay, different looks. Look at this. Let's talk about it real quick. You can see a lot more variation in lights and darks in the watercolor here. This was kind of a no-line watercolor technique project. There was a lot more definition, I would say, a lot more definition in using the 100% cotton paper. Is this not good? No, this is lovely. This is absolutely lovely. A little bit more wonky. You can see that my cherry red over here on the 100% cotton paper. Remember how I said about stamping down on the cellulose paper? You kind of, that ink will sit on the surface of the paper. Well, when I stamp the cherry red over here, the ink starts to go into the fibers of the paper. So you get a different version, cherry red. Isn't that wild? And the blooms. I think this is the biggest difference here. My blooms on my 100% cotton paper, I was able to work with the sweet mango and move it around. When I worked with the sweet mango on here, it just laid on the surface. Does it look bad? No, just different. Just very, very different. Okay, Mary just said, glad when you were able to share with us, and I love how you geek out with us. That's kind of the whole reason why I'm here. Let's just go back to the front camera. I am a graphic designer, illustrator, product designer, watercolor artist, and I love to share and teach in the context of paper crafting and otherwise. So, okay, friends, I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial today and our catch-up chat. A lot of things happened this summer, but I am cruising back into more regularity. I will be back next Wednesday for sure. I say that now. I will be back next Wednesday. And I will also, if anyone is interested in the Watercolor Wonderland class, I just cannot remember the code. It is 50% off in my classroom at craftyourjoy.com. I will go back into the description and I will put the 50% off code word because I can't remember it off the top of my head, and I should have looked that up before I did, but I didn't. Okay, friends, I'll be back next week. We also have a lot of things coming down the pike for September. I have my brand new stamp set coming out. September 10th is the next Gina K release, and it's the holiday release. I am so excited. I know I say that every month with every release because I get so excited when these things come out because I have so many ideas and I can't wait to share with you. But my holiday stamp set this year is unlike anything I've ever done. Big hint. Unlike anything I've ever done. Okay, friends, if you enjoyed today, please hit like and subscribe. It matters. If you, it matters, or so they say, I'm not really sure. If you want to, hit like and subscribe. If you'd love to, I'd love to have you in my community and join my email list. All of that information is down below. I do have a free community in my classroom at craftyourjoy.com. And also to my new friends that have shared that they're new here today and new to watercolor, and you may or may not be on my email list, head on over to craftyourjoy.com, my online classroom. I have a free class that has 12 watercolor lessons in it. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Okay, friends. Oh boy. Okay, friends. Have a really great rest of your week. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next week, friends. Bye.